Welcome back to our quarterfinal coverage and Game 3 between TSM and Gravity. Now, gentlemen, this is the first game in the series where the teams will be swapping sides. So with that in mind, how do we expect that to change strategies leading in?
I mean, Gravity just have overwhelming, much better stats all around on the red side. I mean, yes, most of the red side games were earlier in the season when they were playing better. And so they have more wins on red side, and they have a lot better stats because of that. But also, the counter pick is huge for this team. That goes without saying, especially when you're running a mid laner like Keen.
Yeah, and he's going to be a pretty big deal here. Keen definitely stepped up so much better in that Urgot game, and him getting to counterpick that into a good matchup is a big deal. But I do want to talk about TSM here, and there's 2 points. So one is, of course, right now it seems like they're living and dying by Dyrus, and the fact that he got ganked early on. Of course, great play by Gravity. Well, that strategy starts to peter off when Olaf's a big damage dealer. But the other question I ask is, why didn't they just pick the same comp? Lulu and Sivir were both still open. They could have just played the same champions and probably had the same assumed dominating performance. Why did TSM choose to go away from a strategy that already worked so well?
It definitely seemed like an odd deviation. Definitely the Lulu, or the Sivir, avoiding Sivir and going for Corki. Aside from it bringing in more poke. But again, Bjergsen has been, even though he went Orianna, still another shield-oriented mid lane champion. So pretty much the same strategy for TSM. They won the first game. They want to go similar, but exactly moving away from the extra speed boost of Sivir, it does so much for the squad.
It kind of brings up the old adage of, like, don't change anything if you've won, make them beat you. TSM went ahead and decided to alter their strategy
It's not like they altered it that much.
Right.
But yeah.
The Braum takeaway can change what AD carries you want, and not getting Braum yourself can change what supports you want to run. Like Sivir with a Braum or an Alistar, and Alistar's gone. Those are 2 of your big synergies there. So, like, there are reasons. I'm just not sure the reasons are good enough to actually break away that formula.
Right. All that said, TSM did lose that last game, so they are the ones who are going to have to enact change, as well as the fact that we're swapping sides.
And the biggest difference, I guess, the openings to the game, the first 4 minutes of the games, that was the biggest discrepancy here. TSM crushed the lane swap in game number 1, and Gravity had the great invade in game number 2. So it is mostly about
We'll
play.
see who has more in their early game arsenal this time around. Now, as we send it over to our casters for the call, Santorin says a best-of-5 situation actually plays to TSM's strengths.
So going into the games against Gravity, we kind of feel comfortable. Like, even regardless of Gravity like being probably the best team at counterpicking because they can play anything in any role, we still feel comfortable because first of all, it's the best of 5. So even if they choose one game, we can always spend that, and that's something that will really help us in the best of 5.
It's going to be difficult to ban out anything Gravity's doing. They're already first picking things that you don't know where they're flexing, but they're also getting in their own head a little bit, so I think it could go against them now.
Yeah, this is really anyone's series at this point. We know that there's been actually some surprises on both sides of the champ select. If anyone threw a curveball properly, it was actually TSM in the champ select in the first game, which was somewhat unexpected since Gravity's supposed to be the one throwing curveballs. And if we remember your Loco Doco interview from earlier, Riv, they're kind of expecting to lose a game to something that Gravity throws out.
That's true.
Well, that would be 2 losses on the series. So really, TSM can't have many mistakes from here on out.
And TSM were talking about going back to the basics and actually making it so that they were working on their laning, and they thought that they were superior laners across the board against Gravity, and that they'd just be able to beat them in straight-out play, making sure that Gravity has to rely on alternative strategies. Wasn't really the case there. TSM was the ones getting run around the map with less wave clear, and they stayed even despite all that. So Gravity actually came out against a lot of odds in that game.
The Diana ban keeps coming out.
I'm so curious.
Definitely from scrims.
I'm so curious.
That's scrim knowledge.
So curious about the Diana ban?
Yeah. Like, I want to see how scarring that Diana has to have been to make first ban every round for Gravity. That means they even if it's picked on TSM's side, it means that King doesn't have a counter pick for it.
Every playoffs we have something like this. Last playoffs it was Xiao Xiao's Twist of Fate, where it was just banned in every game even though he'd never played it in LCS. And they eventually played it in the semifinals and ended up losing with it. A lot of these times, the bark is greater than the bite with these picks. But for now, the bark was very powerful, and Gravity doesn't want to lose the series because of it.
It's that knowledge of one person getting the champion they just completely want to play. It's too strong. Looks like it would either be Bjergsen or Santorin, honestly, for that Diana pickup. Still, last ban goes out. It is the Braum that will not be seen after being on both teams the first game.
So Alistar, Janna, both left up now, as well as Ahri, which has been banned both games against Bjergsen.
All right, Diana, Ahri, usually what we were seeing. first pick here. There's a lot of priority open, and it feels like that, or it looks like, I should say, TSM feels Santorin's Nidalee is just too big to let go.
Yeah, or even moves Nidalee is too scary to let go without having Braum on their own side.
That's a great point.
Braum is very good against the Nidalee, but without that on the table, interesting proposition that Gravity left TSM in, almost forcing them into banning Nidalee, saying Gravity is totally fine playing the Elise and something else. But what will that something else be?
I'm very curious. I don't think they should pick Elise now. You should get your support, possibly get your AD carry, because Sivir's still on the table with Kalista gone and Tristana.
Well, to me it depends on whether you think it's a power pick or not. Whether they think Sivir is more powerful or whether they think you can just trade that for a Sivir or Graves
Grab
or
Olaf.
Kog'Maw, right? Since Gravity's so dependent on counterpicking, I actually don't really care what order they pick on the red side unless they think something is super high priority like Olaf could be. But it's not. Alistar is there. That's high priority. Weird pick and grab for Gravity, man.
Good switch at the end. Some mind games with the Olaf hover. That's been Dyrus 2 games so far in the quarterfinals here in the playoffs. See what they go for this time. The Olaf is still open. TSM can still organize the same type of composition they've been trying to go for.
I do like the Alistar takeaway here because now it leaves, in terms of top-tier supports left, you can go with the Thresh again, you can go with something like that. You could also go with the Janna here, but then it becomes a poke disengage comp, which Olaf doesn't really fit into. So if you want to go with that high-tier support that allows you to win lane, they are going to maybe go back to the Thresh. We've seen it both games so far, and Lustboy was playing it. He was caught out a lot on that champion, though.
Yeah.
Gives them some pick potential.
Let's see if TSM can adapt from game to game. We always say that in game, the current adaptation of within the flow of the game isn't something they can do. Between games, it's stronger for them, and they're able to come out with a new strategy. See if they do. They ran kind of the same comp twice in a row to now put Wild Turtle on Jinx. They still have that Thresh, though.
It's a throwback a little bit for TSM. They did have a lot of Wild Turtle Jinx in the spring when they were so successful. But already against Elise and Alistar, Jinx is a little bit of a sitting duck to get chain CC'd. It's a dangerous situation in which to pick Jinx into. Knowing that there are 2 AD carry bans already, though, they might be expecting a Sivir, and they used to have Jinx as their pick against Sivir because they think it has a superior lane.
Yeah.
We'll see what ends up happening here with the last few picks.
Cycled through a lot of champions there, but I feel like Sivir, Corki, most likely on the table here for Altec.
Ashe would have been very interesting with the way
Ashe?
they can play the Cocoon game here.
Oh.
And yeah, they do lock it. A very big amount of crowd control from every player so far. Hard CC that's coming in from Gravity.
It's a lot of catch and a lot of team fight potential, but that's the thing is when you stack so many CCs, you have to have better coordination on your team.
Absolutely true. You might even have Olaf running through that.
Do the mid-Jarvan, Bjergsen. Please. He's been spamming it in solo queue. I love mid-Jarvan. But it would kind of prop them into a bit of a full AD with only Nidalee as the AP threat, which we kind of see can work as long as you have a lot of damage out of the jungle. The fact that it's hovered makes me less convinced that he's going to play it.
The pick of Olaf would just feel good here, being able to run through all that crowd control. If you're the one to eat it, gives Gravity kind of a different aspect of who they need to focus in the fight, or a different target, I should say. Lustboy is going to lock in that Lulu for Bjergsen.
Yeah, I think this is almost necessary for TSM, knowing how strong Gravity's CC wall will be. If TSM wants to have anyone that can dive, it almost has to be Olaf, and if you're doing that, you also kind of have to give him Lulu for the speeding and the shielding so he can do his job. This is, even though Bjergsen has played shieldy type in both of his games, the Lulu is much more defined as an Olaf in power and enabler, and I ultimately like that choice.
Yeah, that's what Bjergsen's been doing this entire series. It's just enabling the rest of his team. Now Wild Turtle on a hyper carry, he's going to be a big threat in late game. This is basically their game 1 composition over again, but Thresh instead of Braum, and then instead of the Sivir, you now have a Jinx, which is a higher threat in the late game for team fights. I do like the Olaf, though, because you talked about how much CC they have. He can just soak an Ashe arrow on the front line, no problem.
Be very careful with who you want to engage on. 10 seconds left here for Gravity to round out their composition. Looking for a mid laner. What does Keen have to bring to the game? He's going to switch back over to the Orianna. A lot more play this season for her coming in towards the end of the split. In other regions, and we were wondering if it would be an NA. Looks like they're starting to pick her up.
Interesting here. So last game, we saw difficulty for shockwaves to be landed. There was a lot of things that could just straight up jump away from that shockwave. This game, this is a situation in which Orianna can succeed. There are 4 champions with hard lockdown in which to make sure the shockwave hits, and also there is only 1 champion on TSM that can innately jump outside of the shockwave. Obviously, Olaf can put on Ragnarok and also get out of it, but it's a way better situation in which to pick Ori, and he should be able to split lane with Bjergsen.
And it's not just that they have the CC, they have delivery systems too. 3 of these champions can actually get the ball into the thick of the fight very quickly.
A lot of aggression from both compositions. We're ready to fight phase, if you will. We're seeing Team SoloMid, though, switch up what they were doing all season long. These Bjergsen-focused comps. Get it to this guy, feed this guy. Now it's a bit spread out. It's going to be Wild Turtles Jinx, Olaf for Dyrus again. They're going to try to spread out that threat that TSM can bring. Gravity still trying to work the flex pick game. We'll see what works coming into game 3. It's time to update those series picks as well. Send hashtag TSM win or hashtag GV win to @LOL Esports. As always, we'll tally up the votes in just a few minutes as we get into game. And we're going into game 3. Gravity with a pretty different composition. It looked like it was going to have a hard time winning. Really took it to Team SoloMid and only found a few deaths along the way. Impressive stuff. We're going to see what they have for game 3.
Both teams making some decent size adaptations. Obviously, TSM going with the Jinx, going to be heavily targeted by the crowd control. But as you said, Gravity making the most changes in the champion select, kind of trying to get the surprise factor back. If anything is a surprise pick, it would be Altek's Ashe. We'll have to see how he can lane that against Turtle, and if he can be a carry threat on a less mobile AD carry.
So, TSM going with the, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It broke a little bit last game, but still stick with the same composition that they've been kind of trying to push forward here for the advantage. Maybe some extra aggression from Bunny Fufu in the bot lane. He brings himself another mana pot on top of some biscuits. Maybe to expect to be healing up more. So get himself crazy when they're in the jungle to be able to use that and keep somebody healed up. Early wards coming in for both teams. Let's see if this changes up. We saw TSM stick his 4 the first game and try to throw Gravity off.
Well, these are lane swap wards. The TSM is going into place. They're going for the invade wards, get the deep spots. However, they didn't leave any retreat wards, so they don't know exactly what Gravity could do, but they can assume they then placed them. This splits the map, so the jungle that is on the top lane side is basically TSM's territory, and Gravity gets the bottom lane side. That's most likely the way this one's going to play out based on how the teams are still not going back into the jungle that they've given up, and will also prep a lane swap.
Always wonder what teams are thinking about in this point. You know, I get this, I'm safe to move. You know, when do we feel the first point of doing something different happens? Is it after the first clear for junglers? Is it after kind of the first few waves for mid lane? When does this break apart for both teams?
When you test which person's kind of messing up the lane swap or what?
Yeah, well, basically, it's
Depends
literally,
on who pushes on what wave.
There's so many different decisions that are being made. It breaks as soon as someone picks a different decision than the other. And some of the decisions are somewhat arbitrary, like whether or not you want to freeze the lanes, whether or not you want to shove up the lanes. That's the point when you're forcing someone into a decision that can create differentiation. Until then, though, this has been identical from both sides.
Right.
Just got to check the top and bottom waves, see if either one is frozen, and that will then start a decision chain. But if they're both frozen, we're probably seeing the same game for a little bit.
Yeah, and then you see how many camps the jungler top laner do, how quickly they get there, and you can see they actually just match each other here. So Gravity's adapting what TSM did in the first game.
Strong, we'll see who gets to that turret first. It's obviously going to be Gravity on the bottom. However, the Jinx in the top, definitely going to put TSM probably at that same damage. See who has the better move after this one. Usually we'll see teams with not really enough gold or wards to keep pushing themselves up, so it's just an easy swap back. See who gets caught during that swap, though, is usually a big thing.
If we're talking about champions that have the capability to take the turret down faster, it's a low health Olaf and a Jinx and minigun. They could crush this very quickly, but because they usually want to bounce the wave, they're not. They're going to end up taking the turrets at about the same time. And yeah, same strat from game 1 on TSM where they leave Dyrus to get the solo gold from this turret, as well as he would want to bounce. And yeah, he's letting the turret kill the last few minions, and he's looking to bounce the wave.
Should be good to go. So it's not Dyrus going down to a move and Haunter gank now in the beginning of the game. It did just happen a few minutes from now, but things are safe. Turrets are down. We'll see where the swaps go.
The only difference we saw
yeah.
was the fact that Gravity shared the gold, and TSM gave it all to Dyrus. So we have made progress. The teams have become a little different.
I think the decision behind that is you want Hanser to at least have some gold to contest Dyrus.
Yep.
And then you also want to put gold on Altec because he's the AD carry and he does so much work for this Gravity squad. You just see how they play around it. And that's almost a little bit of a reactionary move to what TSM did with Yola off top.
Yep. Absolutely. Otherwise, that would have been Gravity just giving it to Altec. That's what they normally do in that situation. They just don't want Hanser to be ran over by a very powerful Dyrus.
Sounds like a plan. It sounds like it looks like, I should say, they've executed it very well so far. 4 to the bot side. No commitment by Santorin. He actually doesn't feel comfortable there, so he heads back down around to guard Lost Boy and Wild Turtle from the back half. Very strong play by Altec, or I should say forward play. He did this last time on Trist just before his team got there. Almost baiting in these fights, but it's not anything TSM wants in the early game. They keep themselves safe. Oh, they may not, though. Not enough wards to keep themselves completely safe.
Yeah, the collapse is coming in, though, from Lulu and Nidalee. Hanser's going to have to run. That's also a
TP.
Got a little too ahead of themselves without really getting an advantage of being in the jungle here. Now being completely pushed out by Team SoloMid. 1 undertow hits. That's the ghost on coming in from Dyrus. Will he be able to connect some more? The reckless swing comes down. They are able to get first blood. The turret gold and first blood to Dyrus with 3 assists to the rest of the team. Things are looking good here as TSM swap it back down to the bot side.
And Keen just continues pushing out the mid lane. He didn't have priority in that lane, and Bjergsen's able to show up bottom.
Yep.
Doesn't even get an assist for it, though.
That's true.
First blood onto Dyrus, though, is pretty huge as far as the Dyrus, just group and have Dyrus run at him. Just a Dyrus comp. That's all TSM is want to do in this one. It's very nice. They gave him full turret gold. They gave him first blood. His teleport also pays off in that situation. And as you said, the Bjergsen roam is something we do not see frequently. But it is a different TSM in this playoffs, making hopefully improved decisions from their late season.
It always seems to be a different TSM in playoffs. When the pressure's on, they always seem to just flip a switch. And this is a very, very different TSM than what we were seeing. Bjergsen taking a supportive role for the team. And it's always one of those things where people are saying when TSM is in a slump, Bjergsen, let him carry. Give him these assassins, give him these champions that he can actually destroy the game with. And now they're empowering Dyrus and Wild Turtle to carry the game. And Bjergsen, just being such a solid laner and player, is now boosting them up.
The ability to kind of sit back and call some shots as well once these fights begin. Give them a little more safety there to do so without being pressured to make some big plays. Bringing Cleanse into that mid lane to make sure he can get out of all the crowd control that they're looking at on the side of Gravity. We talked about that a bit, and safety is just the key word here for Team SoloMid. The Lulu pick, the Cleanse, keeping Dyrus and Turtle alive. 7 minutes, still looking at Altec here on the bot side, and he's still playing up quite far, looking if they can get a bait with Bunny Fufu just on the wing. Mid lane looks pretty clean on both sides, just about 50 CS to both mid laners at 7 minutes in, tied there, and a much better game for Hanser versus Dyrus' Olaf for the past few games. They're much more closer in CS.
Dyrus now has a long lane ahead of him. He's going to constantly shove up, so that leaves him susceptible to Move's ganks. See what Move does with these opportunities.
Keep an eye on him this game.
Dyrus is about to hit 6 too, so he's going to become much harder to gank for this Elise and Maokai.
Yep. Just talking about Move. Already had a few plays between the last game. Set back a little bit, even in farm, as Santorin, I should say, continues to take his camps down and steal some of Moves, making it that much harder. Push towards the top lane. It's going to have Dyrus moving in nice. Might have to get some pressure up there to calm him down a little bit.
TSM keep doing this too. They keep getting a monster wave in the top lane that's going to hit a tier 2, and then it looks like they position around bottom lane instead of looking for a dive top to deny the top laner even more CS.
Yeah, it's an optimization that you would like to see TSM make, but this early into the game, it's very hard to get that many people down behind the turret. So TSM instead, when they make that giant wave hit the turret, have been doing this exact move. This is so similar to game 1. They then rotate as many people as they can toward the bottom side of the map and you look for a turret or kills in the jungle.
They just flipped sides, so.
Yep.
Bjergsen's making the call here. They know that Keen just used his ultimate and he's very low on mana after using that full spell chain. Move getting hit. There's the arrow coming through. It hits Santorin in the face, but does not stop Move from going down. A little late reaction on the bot half of the map, and they can't get there in time.
The 9-minute blue buff invade worked. 3 times the charm for TSM. This one, though, was mainly because they were comboing it with the giant wave landing up top and knowing there's no teleport to collapse. They banned the Shen, so the collapse could not stop that play from working. And it's a nice pressure advantage for TSM, as well as a good boosting.
Yeah, and they had already previously gotten the TP out of Haunter. Dyrus came down, cleared Raptor camp, moved over to where the fight was, so he had prepped it, knew that staying in that wave up top is going to accomplish nothing. So he just lets Haunter push it out. Haunter's now even in CS with Dyrus. And now Dyrus has a long wave to push out again. And TPs will be up most likely by the next time a conflict rolls around.
Getting some changes now. Thanks for changing, guys. Somebody does have the advantage.
Very slightly.
So TSM now a 2K gold lead. 1 turret dropped across the map. You can see in the rotations of going side to side here, TSM's been able to pick up those few kills. Let's see where they can go with it. Dragon really hasn't been an object just yet, or an option I should say. No wards being placed there either for either team to think about it. So mostly clearing right now until the junglers are ready to make that happen. Lustboy getting his wards down and getting the clears out as well. His Sightstone finished over as well. I should say, that's Bunny Fufu's Sightstone. Them being on red side 2 times has caught me.
I know. They swapped finally.
They finally swapped. Bjergsen with double buffs after his engages towards the last fights. Very nice for him in the mid lane. He was able to get something just like that in the previous game. Looks like he's going to keep himself nice and safe. 83 to 86, still very, very close in that mid lane as they're just matching each other in buys pretty much along the way.
Bjergsen, even though he was roaming early on in the game, picks up some pretty nice items to go with that kill. I do also want to point out the inconsistency of laning with Keen versus the consistency of the laning from Bjergsen.
Yeah.
It looks like they're overpowering Gravity right now, again, thanks to a Lulu roam to take down another turret. But as far as double-digit CS leads or deficits, this split, Bjergsen, he has had a double-digit lead in 8 games. Keen has had a double-digit lead in 9 games, so you'd think that makes Keen a very strong laner. But because of Keen's inconsistency, he's had a negative CSD in 4 games, whereas that has never happened to Bjergsen as far as being double-digit down. Even with all of the roaming Bjergsen did this game on Lulu, he was still only down 3 CS a team.
Right.
So really his laning is now being capitalized in a more proactive way. Because previously in the regular season, TSM would have a 10 CS lead on Bjergsen and no advantages. This time, they have a 2 CS discrepancy on Bjergsen, but turrets, dragons, kills, first blood for their top laner, all the good things. It's the transfer of power that needs to happen for TSM to exceed.
And not to mention, while all this is going on, Santorin is still farming the jungle like crazy. He's creating a large advantage for himself because of the safe lane for Bjergsen. There's no kill pressure. You don't need to camp mid lane.
That's the thing that works out. It seems as if since Bjergsen does this, now we can actually expand to allowing and enabling, empower Dyrus to do something, empower Wild Turtle to do it. It just works that Bjergsen kind of had that all along. Now they're trying to pressure into it.
Yeah, largest gold lead is in the jungle by 1,000. A little over 1,000. And then top lane is right behind at 900 because they gave turret gold over and the kill to Dyrus very early on the first blood.
Very smart and very strong around the consistency of Bjergsen here.
But this is good for TSM moving forward because when they were in their slump, it felt like everybody was scared on the team. Everybody wasn't empowered to make moves.
Only Bjergsen could kick.
Exactly. Like only Bjergsen was the person who could make moves and blow a game up. Now we're seeing Dyrus run away with the game. We're seeing Wild Turtle be empowered to carry as well. Jinx. And they're moving as a unit. Despite being down in kills last game, they're still picking up turrets. This game, they're doing more of the same. They're out-rotating Gravity all 3 games so far.
Their Gravity needs to pick up their game as far as being able to keep up with this lane swapping, that's for sure. Move is behind this game. First blood definitely hurt him. The mid lane pressure has been transferring elsewhere, and it's really just Gravity being behind in rotations again and again.
That actually works very nicely in Santorin's favor. Keen just left turret aggro, so they can get a few more shots on. Is that a home guard? No, that's a bootless Maokai.
Yep, that'll do it.
Not really going to be too much fear there.
Got him. It's a little too early for him to even think about having home guards. Early teleports.
This is just true.
The wards have to be closer or that teleport has to be hidden if they want to surprise TSM. Now they're down teleport, they're down health, and it's a 5-man siege for TSM in the mid. With the wave clear, though, I don't think they're going to make much of this push.
Yeah, you'd think he'd had home guards by watching the camera and being like, oh, we're at tier 2s already.
He's just flexing his tree muscle.
People are running through the enemy jungle. Exactly.
Getting it in there.
Still only 13 minutes, almost 14 minutes in this game.
So the teleport fear plays. Gravity coming in. Next level mind thinking.
Still gives a
Mind
big
games.
advantage in terms of TP to Dyrus. Enables him to go split push, make Haunter answer him, and then make a play across the map. So watch out for that here as they get this middle turret.
The big picture of things, TSM's getting so many small wins they'll be able to use over the next few minutes here. It's going to make it tough for Gravity to really do anything. Alltech trying to take care of the top lane and patch that up. But after this, Gravity is going to pretty much have to sit back and maybe wait for next Dragon. They don't have too much other than camps to clear.
Yeah, and they're falling pretty far behind in other aspects, too. I mean, this is a non-trivial gold disadvantage. 3,700 gold already at the 14-minute mark. On top of the Dragons and the ward disadvantage they have on the map. This is going really, really badly for Gravity. Also a teleport disadvantage. So, I mean, unless they get some ridiculous pick with Move catching a beautiful cocoon or King getting a 4 to 5-man shockwave, the mid-game teamfight is very heavily in TSM's favor.
Yeah, they do have a lot of pick potential, like you said. Even if it's an Ash Arrow across the map in another lane, they can still create an advantage, but we haven't been seeing that.
Well, the most interesting thing about that is TSM is somewhat well prepared. Bjergsen with cleanse, Dyrus with the Olaf ultimate, and also a Thresh. So unless they're bursting someone down within the duration of the Ash Arrow, there's probably a chance they can click a Thresh Lantern and get him out of there. So there's it's really hard for Gravity to actually get the pick with the Ash Arrow.
Whoever gets nailed with the arrow is also getting a Lulu ulted, so it has to be instant, and nobody has instant kill potential on the side of Gravity. Righteous Glory has been finished, so with the teleports, it's maybe a little bit more speed, even if he doesn't have brown bags on his feet. 15.5 in. Looks like Gravity may finally try to get this top turret down.
Yep.
They're going to put quite a bit of pressure on it. And they stay for safety. They say, you guys can back? Not yet. Let's make sure we don't get completely dove on, since we don't have vision of Team SoloMid right now. Who is trying to sneak into the bot side of the jungle.
Testing this tier 2. They have a Nidalee, they have a Jinx. You could kill turrets very quickly if you get to them. They'll get some alone time with this turret because the backs are a little off here. Let's see if they can get it.
TSM
has been so far ahead as far as rotations go.
Here comes the arrow. I don't think it's game.
Oh, it went over a ward.
Ooh, nice little team disengage there, taking down the turret. Turtle actually activates the rockets. Make sure he gets that distance in it as soon as possible. Get ASAP turret down. 2-0 now. Very reminiscent of the first game. A low kills, a lot of caution.
Hello.
Undertow onto Alltech. Summoner heal negates the E true damage. That may be the miss he required. And flashing that Undertow saved Alltech's life, but he used a lot to get out alive.
Alltech, now they lose the pressure in the other two lanes. They just burned Summoners and had a rotation up top lane. These turrets are falling way too fast for Gravity.
And they don't have to worry about an Ash Arrow coming in, so they can go pretty headstrong into these fights. Bunny Fufu, Unbreakable Will goes on. The repel's up for Move. The last few hits of Glitter cannot go across, and the Javelin misses as well over the left shoulder of Move. Low members from Gravity do not spell good things if TSM can reach these turrets with a full team, and that's what's going to happen here in the top.
Just so much siege power here between the members of TSM. If they get to a turret, which they can very easily with their wave clear, they're going to knock it down very quickly, and you see that right here.
Yeah. Move, their Haunts are twisted advancing in, knew it was kind of ill-advised. Gets himself out right quick. TSM working very methodical right now.
This is the cleanest they've played of the 3 games. Game 1, it looked like they knew. So when you're having these Lulu Olaf team compositions, it feels like the win conditions are somewhat simplistic. You group up generally, you put all the stuff on Olaf, and you go. But there were a lot of times in Game 1 where Bjergsen was caught a little bit out of position and very quickly used his Summoner spells and his ultimate, so the TSM could not really confidently group and pull off these strategies. TSM's not getting caught whatsoever. Their wards are ahead of the game. They're rotating killing turrets very well, and they have the big cooldowns for when the team fights happen. Gravity wants to burst down this Dragon, but it's a very strong TSM that can collapse upon them.
There's the arrow to the right. Bjergsen has to move it across. He's going to get one shockwave onto Haunter there. The rest of the Gravity team flashes through, but they're all slivers of health instantly in the beginning of the fight. Double lift, triple kill for Dyrus, looking for the Penta. That's going to be a kill for Turtle. It could still be the Quadra. That's a dropping Spider. Never going up the spout again. Quadra coming in for Dyrus.
It's just a Dyrus comp.
Yeah, you kill everyone.
Just Dyrus things.
And that was just a perfect example of everything TSM has built up in the first 18 minutes into the game, coming to a head at the Dragon Pit. Gravity was completely cornered. They tunneled on that objective, but TSM was vastly superior. They did a TP flank as well, which is something they've hardly been able to do all split long. They get a massive win. 1 Jinx rocket away from a Penta for Dyrus. 7 kills to 0, 8,000 golden.
And let's just have a check right here. That's an inhibitor turret down, and it's 19 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
It is still extremely early, so Gravity are now going to have a funnel of farm into them, and TSM need to keep the pressure up to close this game out, or else Gravity is going to have a source of income that they can constantly go to. It is the best inhibitor to have down, though. You can see here, Shockwave comes through, not ideal from Keen, and then Dyrus just gets backline access, goes immediately for Altec.
Yeah, and everyone in Gravity is trapped. Even if they go over the wall, it's to their own base. The axe just went through everyone. Dyrus is a monster in this fight.
Oh, he juggled it!
There was a Jinx rocket and a Nidalee Spear trying to chaos away that quadra kill. Everybody wanted the kill onto Moon.
And he put a dance in there. I liked it. I liked it. A little bit of swagger as he comes up with a kill. 4 of them for himself. Now 5-0 and 1. And what a way to be putting a game on Dyrus' back. And then you said, even on the flank teleport, if we remember, teleports were one of the things that plagued TSM the most. And Dyrus being a little late or too early and the communication wasn't there. On point in the playoffs here, the quarterfinals, is really helping to carry TSM in a surge of momentum in Game 3. Neither team showed this much pressure in Game 1 or 2.
Yeah, definitely not. This is TSM turning on mid-series. It's something they've set as a strength coming into the series, and now Gravity is going to have to bounce back very, very hard in Game 4. It's the amount of best-of-5 series these two teams have played, greatly favored by TSM. The amount of best-of-5s they've played as a group, experience in the playoffs. All of these things are heavily in the favor of TSM. This is Altec's first playoff series. This is Move's first playoff series. 4 of these 5 guys on TSM were at Worlds last year. They've been to MSI as a team. They've been to IM Katowice as a team. They won the spring split. Experience is not even close for these guys, and it's the type of mid-series adaptation that Gravity's now going to have to bounce back.
That simple feeling of knowing that you've been there before. TSM has had the we're 2 games down feeling. Can it come back? Yes, it can. Knowing that end of the road has a light. TSM still push for it very hard. Gravity wondering, weaning, what can they do here? Now they're going to try set up one more time. It's definitely power in numbers. They do not want to leave each other's side at this point, with the base being the last thing in front of the Nexus for Team SoloMid here. Team SoloMid's baiting them ever so slowly. The carrot's definitely out in front here, and they're saying, come on, come out of the base a little bit more. It'll be fine. Just a little bit.
Safe. Ignore the wave. We'll get Baron.
Don't worry about it.
The wave looks good. Get the gold.
Oh.
They have so many options, though. As that wave pushes bottom, you can siege middle, you can siege top with a split push, and if they ever misstep or they put too many people bottom or they don't put the right person there, you immediately go Baron. You have the vision control, and you can see it. They're actually going to go for Baron right now.
This is a tricky force because Gravity needs someone back to hold the super minions off. But it is a very early Baron, and TSM has a lot of people stopping the collapse on the Baron. So the guys doing it are going to get a little
snuck
low.
around.
Well,
here's the true damage. Ta-da! Unbreakable will that, says Dyrus. He goes chug on for a little bit more. Dyrus still wants to party. He might not want to go too crazy here. He's taking turret shots right now. He's going on to Move. Move could come back with a bite, but he does not. And all the focus is onto Dyrus, giving the rest of Team SoloMid the chance to fight whatever members they want. The hook in, King going down. That's going to be the Ignite. Command Protect was also just coming back at the last second, but unfortunate for Keen. Haunter will also fall, trying his damnedest in the fight. And the zap is dodged by Altec as he has no mana or health, heading for the fountain.
And they get even more off of it. More turrets. This will be an inhibitor turret at the least.
Dyrus fought like 4 people there.
Or tier 2.
It extends the gold lead to 10,000, but that was actually a pretty close fight, all things considered. When you're looking at it, was a 9,000 gold lead before the fight. A lot of TSM people were low or slow to the battle because they were doing the Baron, but ultimately that gargantuan lead gave them the team fight victory now and an even extended gold.
See the fight one more time. Dyrus just taking things into his own hand.
Yeah. You want to check the Baron with Bunny Fufu, the man with the wards or Move.
So much ward
Dyrus
control.
Getting the perfect flank off here.
Yeah, this was where he got a little bit aggressive.
Yeah, he just camped Move's body.
Took 2 turret shots, unfortunately. and wasn't necessarily expecting the Lulu ult at that exact juncture. Ends up splitting himself from the team as well. Nice hook, though, on the backside. But even then, TSM is a little afraid of getting blown up. Very
Hanser
close.
Going a little hard. The box of Lustboy was right there, and Hanser says, I'll just walk around it.
Yeah, Hanser went forward as some damage was coming out on the back line, so Move was no longer able to contribute. Nowtech wasn't either.
Very scattered, but we could expect that from a fight where they haven't really seen each other for quite some time. TSM had those pretty much 8 kills, and then it was kind of a lull. So everybody's kind of wondering about what kind of damage is going to come out. And we saw that even TSM members started to get low there.
Yeah, TSM's probably going to pick up the second Dragon here. I do want to kind of go back to the game-defining moment here when TSM got the ace within the Dragon Pit.
Right.
And compare it a little bit to Gravity's builds at the time. Basically, Hanser rushed to Righteous Glory, which is mainly built in order to force catches in a team fight.
Right.
But that was a grouped up 5v5 fight that doesn't have catches, so not playing towards their items in that way. Also, Keen had started the game Athene's into a tier of the Goddess, most likely because their blue buff was getting denied and he wanted to be able to clear waves.
Absolutely.
But that is not a combat effective build until you upgrade that item into the Archangel staff. So that's why when the Shockwave landed onto Santorin, it didn't really seem to do anything. Basically, both solo laners for Gravity were built for things that weren't exactly what they were doing. They grouped up for a fight, but didn't have the combat effective items in that fight, and it just added to the disaster that was that Dragon.
Yeah, it's one of those dragons you should recognize. We should probably give this up. It's a bad position for us. We're not playing around a power spike in the moment. We will turn on later. When you have a tier, you have to recognize those points in the game.
Right. Kind of threw in Wild Turtles Corki with the last tier build they have. A little bit of a lull in your damage. Corki can come in with a Triforce. This time, though, different setup of things on the side of Gravity, where the tiers won't really have anybody to fight during that time. We'll see a little push in from Team SoloMid here, gaining full control over Gravity's jungle. It's just going to make things even harder when you can't see your enemy. And now they can go from this top to mid, back and forth, and start to spread Gravity thin. Objective of Baron is still on the map, but with the way that last fight went, I don't think TSM wants exactly that right now. 7-2 in turrets. They are waiting for a Gravity mistake.
Hello. Oh, speaking of Gravity mistake.
Yeah. Ow. It happens. Not even a chance to repel out of that one. 30 seconds on the death timers right now, and that actually could mean with Smite down, TSM wants the Baron.
This will be a medium speed Baron here.
Medium rare, please.
Yeah, Darius teleporting in for safety, I assume.
Oh,
there were ways to teleport, in all honesty. They could have used that teleport flank with the Baron buff to try and end this game.
Well, everybody has to back now, so...
Yeah, total waste. Total and complete waste.
He got the pink ward in the middle of the lane, I think.
He did it.
He did it.
There you go. Worth.
Yeah, exposed inhibitor as well for TSM. Expect them to group and go for that.
Yeah, and now Darius doesn't really have the split option available because of the TP. He can go for it, though, but that's a big risk.
So how big he is waiting for his item. So Black Cleaver Randuin, he's actually pretty big for that top lane. He just Hanser's Righteous Glory right now, trying to finish up a Randuin, so we'll have double effect on slowing once he gets into the fight. If he can get into the fight, that is.
Yeah. So here's something. Obviously, it helps when you're winning this game, but distribution of kills and resources is so heavily favored Bjergsen in the past, and this is how different and unique this build is, at least for TSM. If we look at the gold right now for TSM, it's pretty much exactly 10,000 gold on 4 different people. Darius is a little bit ahead with 10,800, but Santorin, Bjergsen, and Wild Turtle are all sitting in the 10,000 mark. It is, when you're winning, it's easy to turn into a 4-threat team, but TSM has been losing as a 1-threat team. Right now, they're running 3 to 4 threats, and it's working quite well because of it.
And when you're winning in levels, as well as that money, the levels make you stronger. You can buy things like a 3rd item Quicksilver. Your mid already has cleanse. It's going to make it harder for Gravity to even get back in this with the crowd control fights.
There you go. They group up.
TSM just pushing hard.
All 5, put them in the bottom lane, move to mid lane, use this Baron buff. You have combat stats, combat effectiveness over everybody else. Santorin's 4,000 gold up over move. Hanser's 3,000 gold behind Darius, and they get the hook on the Altec.
TSM always says they're a different team coming into the playoffs. Oh, the 4-man wombo combo coming in with Buddy Fufu. A lot of early damage, but is the finishing damage there for Gravity. They continue to tack on that DPS. One is going to go down. Lustboy falls, but there's a lot of exit here from Team SoloMid. The rocket comes back through to equalize the fight. support for a mid, I actually think that's in favor of TSM now.
They just have so much in terms of combat stats on TSM. They only lose one person, and it's the support.
That's the pawn for the queen right there, and you could not be happy with that. You're obviously going to move forward if you're TSM in this situation. Another inhibitor is going to go down. We're over 30 seconds on these death timers, and TSM doesn't even want Gravity to come back and defend anything here. Santorin getting a little too hypey in the situation. Wild Turtle looking for another one. Twisted advance, so close to hitting him, and it does. Turtle tried to stop the home guard speed, and he somehow stays alive as well, getting the heals, the shields that he needs. The ace coming in for Team SoloMid. They just went through the batting order of Gravity.
Yeah, and Keen's back up. Right again. Honestly, though, a 5-man Shockwave, what looked like from Keen, I'm not sure if it caught Dyrus on the back end, but to have basically the perfect initiation happen and then still lose the game, end the fight. Got to be disheartening.
Even that, the dissonance and Shockwave hitting Turtle took about 300 HP off of him. He's feeling good. He's able to get out with the rest of the team and absolutely turning Gravity's base into shambles. There's probably not much longer to be had in this game as we reach 30 minutes.
And off the Wombo combo, you were just talking about it getting disheartened. When you're about 10,000 gold behind in the game, you say, okay, there's a way back in this game.
Yeah. Land the perfect combo.
We get the perfect combo.
Lustboy was out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, so no, he walked into it.
They all walk into it. And then I think the Shockwave pulls.
I think he gets Cyrus too.
Or does he just run in? No, 5-man.
5-man.
Perfect.
So
5-man
to 5.
But you saw how little damage that actually did to Dyrus there. You sit there saying, we need this combo. You get the combo and you realize,
they run enough poke on the retreat with a Glitter Lance and an Undertow. And then the rocket comes in from the backside.
All right. Crazy stuff.
At that point,
Team SoloMid was backpedaling so hard. You're not going to expect that to come across. Gravity even had the wards through Raptor and up that, so they knew the rocket was coming had they been ready for the fight to continue. Everybody thought it was dispersed, though. You can see where these guys' heads are at. Now, Sorcery Elixirs, an Iron Elixir onto Lustboy as well, so he's a big old fresh. And it's just going to be tough if they can start putting that surplus of items and potions into their inventory. Bunny Fufu very close to be going down. He does what he can with an arrow on the backside, but there's no Unbreakable Will. There is actually. He is just getting taken down very quickly. The cow sidesteps, but still goes down, and Team SoloMid is running amok now in Gravity's base.
Yeah, Shockwave takes down Santorin, but this is such a massive TSM team, Riv. 31 minutes in, TSM with a decisive Game 3 win.
18-4. It was 1-1. TSM put themselves up one game and game point in the series versus Gravity.
and it looks like TSM said they're going to win 3 games and lose 1, maybe.
They're not liars.
They're on path to doing that with this new playoff TSM. And they always show up.
This new
it's a new strategy.
Dyrus carry thing. Nobody saw that.
Yeah. They cut back to us so quickly. But really, I just want to check the damage dealt to champions as Irene closes out the screen, so I can't tell you damage dealt to champions. Blame that guy. Anyway, it was an impressive game by TSM for a number of reasons. Gravity, they switched up their team comp so heavily, and based on the way TSM brought the cleanse, had the Olaf, it did very much feel like Gravity was outplayed as well as out-team composition. They brought so much CC, but not that much damage, and then TSM brought a counter to the CC as well as some great shielding. So really decisive game.
They would just run around the map all game, objective after objective, falling to TSM, and then they get these pickoffs. The blue invade finally worked. They were able to actually, like, the thing I like about this is they're enabling Dyrus so much, even just off giving him turret
Way
gold.
more than usual. Dyrus wanted to play League of Legends. He's playing League of Legends.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the long con.
It's the long con, and it's finally coming out. Let's send it over to our analyst to break down that TSM victory.
Thanks, Riv. Gentlemen, I want to start off in Champion Select because once again, we see the Olaf come through for TSM, and it seemed even more effective this time around.
Okay, so that's a fair point. Very effective this time around. Freak, you're an 80 carry.
Yeah.
Gravity, they decide to pick up Ashe, having seen Olaf the previous 2 games. It's still up this game. High likelihood that Dyrus plays it again.
Yes.
You have to be some kind of masochist to run Ashe into Olaf, I think. Unless it's there's some kind of crazy team comp that it's absolutely amazing for.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ways to think about this. So, yes, on an individual level, and I actually tweeted it out as well when the Champ Select ended, like, picking Ashe when you see Olaf coming, you know it's coming out, is really scary. And they didn't even pick, like, a good lane matchup, like a Maokai, like something to bully the champion out as well. So you know Olaf's going to get to do his job. which is a really weird way to go into Champ Select, where the star player of TSM, Dyrus somehow, is probably just going to run amok like he's a Pokemon gym trainer.
Oh my God.
But seriously, like,
it was going fine. It was going great.
You were making a really fantastic analytical point, and then you had to go and ruin it like that. Kobe, here's your pen back.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, continue.
No, so on that front, on the oh my God, it's Olaf front, yes, very, very bad for Gravity. What I will say though is in any like moderately okay like gold lead sort of game, Olaf will be split pushing, and he has to TP into stuff. And so if you arrow in or Maokai in and then Shockwave, you catch 2 or 3 people, and on equal gold, that comp is enough damage. Now, when you're down 15k, no, it's not enough damage anymore. No crap, no comp is. But if like in a game where you're down 10k, the comp sucks. In a game where you're not down 10k, it's probably okay.
I do want to move ahead then into the gold lead that was created pretty early, because in the last 2 games, we've really hammered the idea of the early game between these 2 teams being so extremely important. We want to use our replay to get into this. So Kobe, I'm throwing it to you. The first blood here in the early game that kind of set TSM off on the right foot.
Right, so this one was kind of awkward to me because Gravity, the plan that they're going with here is they don't send Hanser immediately up back to the top lane and, you know, try and switch back here. So it kind of puts a timer on them because Dyrus is getting a lot of farm up there. Yes, he can teleport into this play, but Gravity are looking to try and punish this duo lane that has the Jinx in it really early on here with the 3-man move. So they're like, we're gonna run in, try and get there before there's wards. Oh wait, there's a ward here. So they stop to clear it, but then they split. At this point, all 3 members split. If you look at the mini-map, they can move down and still try and cut off Turtle and force the teleport from Dyrus. However, they continue on with this, only Haunts are engaged. So continue to roll a replay here, and we'll see Move goes up into the jungle. Bunny, Fufu, and Haunts are moved down to try and cut them off. But then Bunny Fufu has a different idea about what they're going to do with this, and Haunter turns around after he gets hooked in. He twisted advance and he gets cut off here by the Flame Chompers. Then the teleport comes in, and a few seconds this early in the game of free DPS, even on something like Maokai, is going to be the game changer. Plus, look at this roam from Bjergsen. Bjergsen is down bottom lane while Keen is still in mid lane. He made the entire trip there, and it was Gravity, the team that initiated this whole move down bottom. It's Gravity who sent 4 people down bottom to try and cut off the Jinx, and they're the ones, they don't even have the mid laner down there. They're completely outnumbered. Move was going up into the jungle while the Alistar and Maokai were going down to cut them off. It just seemed like the communication completely broke down for Gravity.
Yeah, and if you think about just even like the game theory behind it, like, you know Olaf can TP, you know mid lanes are right now equal. If Nidalee's in bottom jungle, it is a 4v4 at worst,
yeah,
so like it's okay.
Remember, there's a 3.5-second channel time on teleport. Right. So even if Dyrus reacts, you've got that 3.5 seconds I said was so important
right away.
Of DPS time.
Again, so yeah, it would have worked. Misplayed, bad by move. Ouch.
Works out in TSM's favor. Some early gold onto that Olaf. We've seen what Dyrus did in game 1 when he was ahead. Not so effective in game 2 when he was behind. Well, here you go. He's got an early first blood, and this only got worse as the game went on. We do have an LCS big play tweet that came from @LulInflicts, who tweeted, "Woo woo! Here comes the pain train."
Oh man, and it's Brolaf too, which makes it so fitting. This is absolutely wonderful here. So it starts out, you know, Gravity doing normal stuff, trying to engage on, but you know what? There's a little guy called Dyrus on Olaf on the side, and he gets onto Altec. And exhaust doesn't matter. It lowers his damage output like 25%, which matters a little, but you just... That's the problem, is he's so disruptive to the team composition. It's a front-loaded AoE burst team from Gravity, and when there's a backline threat that's disruptive that gets past all the CC, he just kills everyone.
Oh, it's just a massacre. They all run into the dragon pit, and it's like those wrestling actors in WWE where they're trying to get out of the pit, and just getting beat down from the outside. But yeah. Lesboy lands a great hook onto Keen. It is worth saying that a Jinx Olaf team comp is really snowballing, and if they get ahead, then they're going to have plays like this where they just steamroll over their opponents. But getting trapped in the Dragon Pit right there was brutal.
A much more decisive game from TSM this time around. Third time we've seen Olaf, coupled with that Lulu. So TSM still very much showing their strategy. The question is, does Gravity have an answer to that? Because they've been beaten by that strategy twice. I think we'll find out soon enough. Ban Olaf, that's one. That's one way to do it.
Or find Hunter a matchup you can win.
Hey, and maybe they'll drop that Diana ban that is kind of been sitting there nebulously, as we don't know exactly whether or not TSM would even play it if it were an option.
I dropped Callista, personally. I think that's a ban you can also drop off. I know Altec hasn't played it the entire split long, but you got to drop something for the Olaf ban unless you have a counter pick, which we've seen they don't have.
So if they do ban Olaf, then I think TSM go back to Bjergsen on a carry champion, because that's one thing they've been very happy to have Dyrus be the carry. And while Dyrus is on Olaf, then they're, oh yes, we're gonna have Bjergsen on the shield champion. It's gonna be Lulu or Orianna. It'll be fine. He's gonna empower everyone else. If they ban Olaf, I feel like Bjergsen's going to come back with something like...
Yeah, this is indicative of the fact that TSM... Exactly. It's indicative of the fact that TSM has multiple strategies. They can go back to that mid-centric game if Gravity pivots to deal with the top lane-centric game.
And that's the important thing about doing this early, to make other teams have to react to this.
Make them have it.
Exactly.
Make them have it. TSM went 11-7 going solo carry Bjergsen. That's not very good. That was the 5th place team in North America. That's not exactly a great strategy.
Yeah, they're aiming to be number 1. Yeah. Well, they are just one game away from locking up their place in the semifinals. We'll see if they can get it done in Game 4 against Gravity. The summer playoffs continue after this.
Be decisive about dragon fights, okay? Yeah. You have a really strong team fight comp. Make use of it and call out Ashe arrows, okay?
Don't be as passive as last game.
If we see them,
don't let them run you over.
If we see them, just poke them.
Triple kill for Dyrus, looking for the Penta. That's going to be a kill for Turtle. It could still be the Quadra. That's a dropping Spider. And all the focus is onto Dyrus, giving the rest of Team SoloMid the chance to fight whatever members they want.
TSM always says they're a different team coming into
playoffs. Oh, the 4-man wombo combo coming in with Buddy Fufu.
TSM put themselves up one game and gained point in the series versus Gravity.